Yo, what is up, guys? It's Cohen back here again today with another video. Let's talk about the play-in tournament. That's something that's really on most NBA fans' minds at this point. As we're rounding the corner to the end of the regular season, the Thunder only have one game left, and a couple other teams have 1-2 games left. But the regular season ends tomorrow, and what's after that is the play-in tournament. If you don't know how the play-in tournament works, I'll explain it real quick. So, the 7 and the 8 seed in each conference play each other. The winner of that game gets the 7 seed. Then the 9 and the 10 seed play each other, and the winner of that game in each conference plays the loser of that 7-8 matchup to fight for the 8 seed. So that's how the play-in tournament works if you did not know, and it's something new that the NBA is trying this season to try and spice up the end of the regular season because for most casual fans, by this point in the season, they're not really paying much attention. There are still some fun playoff battles, but most of the time people are kind of just waiting for the playoffs, and I personally think that the play-in tournament is a great idea because I've never seen so many people invested at this point in the NBA season. Typically, like last year on my Twitter timeline, well, it was a little different because the bubble was happening, but in the past, I would see a lot of people kind of drop off. I would see a lot of people stop talking about basketball. I would see people kind of be like, oh, okay, I'm just waiting for the playoffs at this point, and they would just all be talking about the playoffs and not really focusing on the regular season matchups. Additionally, throughout this second half of the season, part of the reason why so many people stop talking about the NBA as much is because their team stopped trying. If your team falls out of the race for that 8 spot, then your team will probably stop trying, or they won't try as hard because they don't have an opportunity to make it. Instead, what we're seeing this season is so many different teams are really going for it, despite dealing with a ton of injuries. A great example is the Indiana Pacers, a team that in the past may not have had a shot, is now they decided, okay, we're going to keep going, we're going to try and make this play-in tournament, and now they're tied with the Hornets and the Wizards for that 8, 9, 10 spot. The Hornets and the Wizards even play each other tomorrow, and the winner of that game will play the Celtics as the 8 seed in that 7-8 matchup game, which is super exciting. That adds a ton more stakes to that game. So I'm very excited to see how that goes, and it's cool because even though the loser of that game, if it was a regular season, they would just be knocked out of the playoffs, which is great for TV. I think it is good for ratings, but I still want to see more of like LaMelo, even if the Hornets lose. I want to see more of Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal if the Wizards lose. So it's a cool opportunity for there to still be pretty high stakes while still offering potential for redemption for whichever of those teams loses. And I think the main problem that some people have with the play-in tournament is that it kind of involves like the 7 seed, and I could see that. I think that is a valuable change that they could consider making, is that you take out the 7 seed from the equation and it's just the 8, 9, 10 spot. Some people also have the issue of the fact that a team could potentially be the 10 seed like 12 games back or something crazy like that of the 8 seed and end up taking their spot if they win a couple of games. That's very fair. That is something you could talk about and have a discussion about. And I think that's where the play-in tournament is going next. I think for this season, the play-in tournament's great. I think the concept of a play-in tournament is good because, like I said, the NBA, the whole goal is to keep people engaged for the whole season. And a lot of teams have continued to try this season despite their teams not being very good. An example is the Sacramento Kings at the trade deadline did not sell because they thought they had an opportunity to go for it. Same with the Pelicans, who were never going to be sellers, but they continued to try fighting. Just all these different teams continuing to play hard. And also you have a team like the Los Angeles Lakers, who probably in a normal season would be chill. They're the 7 seed right now. They just won over the Indiana Pacers. And so they're tied for the 6-7. They're tied with the Trailblazers for that 6-7 seed spot. And they don't want to be in the play-in tournament. The Lakers, I know they're the defending champions. They have LeBron James, Anthony Davis, but you don't want to risk having to play 2 games potentially for your season. You don't want to risk losing a game and then having to play in a winner-take-all matchup against one of those teams in the West, because there are some tough potential matchups. They could potentially have to play the Golden State Warriors in a game that could decide whether their season continues or not. That's terrifying when you have to go up against Steph Curry. And so the Lakers, in a typical season, would probably be chill. They'd be like, okay, whatever, we're just hanging out. We'll take the 7 seed, we'll play whoever we have to play, and we'll rest guys going into the playoffs. Instead, today, LeBron James comes back because they need to win these last 2 games. They won one of them. They've got to win this next game and hope that the Trailblazers lose so that they can take that 6th spot and they don't have to go through the play-in tournament. No team wants to have to go through the play-in tournament, and I think that's a good thing. I think teams should be fighting to avoid the play-in tournament. I know players might not like it, but I think part of the reason they don't like it is because they don't want the opportunity to go home that early, and so they're continuing to play hard. Teams are continuing to fight and trying to avoid it. I think it's great. I think it makes for a lot of great storylines, and I think it makes for good competitive basketball, which is what at this point in the season, when players start to rest for the playoffs, we lack a lot of the time. We lose out on a lot of cool matchups because people are just resting for the playoffs. So that's my take on the play-in tournament. Now, in terms of changes, like I said, you could definitely get rid of the 7 seed. I think it would probably be the same, if not potentially better if you just had the 8, 9, 10 spot. And what you did was you had the 9 and 10 play each other, and the winner of that has to play the 8 seed to take their spot. Maybe the 8 seed only has to win once, and whichever other team plays them has to win twice or something like that. There's potential there for that. Another reason I like the play-in tournament is because a lot of times we lose out on playoff teams that just dealt with a ton of injuries. The Washington Wizards are a good example. Right now they're at the 9 spot, but they could potentially jump into the playoffs because of the play-in tournament. Even though Bradley Beal's missed a bunch of time, Westbrook started the season unhealthy, Thomas Bryant's missed the whole season because they continue to fight and try to play. And even though they are right now, if the season ended at this exact moment, they would not be in the playoffs. They have a potential to try and fight their way in. I think that's cool. Same with the Pacers, a team that's been really beat up and isn't going to be much healthier for that play-in tournament. They have the potential, though. They've dealt with a ton of injuries, and they have the potential to still make the playoffs and still try and put together some run. Will it be really difficult? Try to play like the Sixers in the first round? Absolutely, but it's a potential opportunity for them. The Golden State Warriors are a team that has dealt with a ton of problems this season, a lot of injuries. Obviously, Clay not playing the entire season, James Wiseman missing a ton of time, Eric Pascal, guys like Damian Lee, all these different role players for the Warriors have missed a lot of time. But because of how good Steph Curry has been, and because of the play-in tournament, they still have a shot. Now, right now they are the 8 seed, but they've got to win. They've got to focus down and win this last game because they don't want the Grizzlies to take that spot. If the Warriors win this next game, they will potentially play the Lakers in that play-in tournament game, which is another thing I like about this play-in tournament format is that we get a lot of cool like playoff atmosphere matchups. When you have a normal season, the way that the Lakers and Warriors are right now, they would have no shot of playing each other. It would be like impossible. But because of the play-in tournament, we could potentially see LeBron James and Steph Curry play for the right to make the playoffs in like a one-game thing. That's incredible. That's awesome. That's going to make for incredible TV if that is the matchup. And even if the Lakers jump the Blazers, we get to see Dame versus Steph. If the Warriors fall down, we get to see Ja Morant and the young Grizzlies go up against either Damian Lillard in a rematch of last year's playing game, or we get to see them go up against the Los Angeles Lakers. There's so many potential matchups and storylines that I think are going to be incredible for ratings for the NBA, which is a plus for them. And as fans, we get to see this as well. I know the players don't like it, or I know some of the players don't like it. There are other players who have said that's a good idea, but obviously a guy like LeBron James said whoever came up with the idea needs to be fired. But if the NBA is trying to get people to pay attention and get teams to continue to be competitive at this point in the season, the play-in tournament is doing a good job of that. I think if I had to change it, I would probably get rid of the 7 seed. I feel like the 7 seed is a little too far up and do just like an 8, 9, 10 thing. And also add in the caveat that if a team like the 10 spot is like 12 games back, then they don't get a shot. Maybe it's like within 5 games. It would probably depend on the season because this year is shortened. So maybe in an 82-game season, it's a shorter gap or a wider gap, depending which way you want to go with it. Those are just things to think about. I've seen other people suggest ways to fix the play-in tournament as well. I really don't know how I feel about many other ideas outside of like the game limit, games back for a team trying to make the play-in tournament, or with like getting rid of the 7 seed. But I think that's a good way to start. I do think the NBA is going to make this a permanent thing. I know people don't like it. I promise when the play-in tournament happens, you're going to like it. If you don't, you can come back to this video and flame me in the comment section below. In fact, even now, let me know what you think about the play-in tournament in the comment section below. Let me know which teams you want to see face each other. I would personally love to see the Lakers and the Warriors face each other. I don't know if it's going to happen because I do think the Lakers are going to win. And the Blazers, who do the Blazers play? The Blazers play the Nuggets. That's going to be a really good game. See, that's another thing. The Trailblazers at the 6th spot, of course, they're going to want to win. But for the Denver Nuggets, it's interesting because if you beat the Trailblazers, you could potentially then lock yourself in with a matchup with the Lakers in that first round, which is scary. Or if you lose, you keep the Lakers in that play-in tournament and maybe you avoid having to play them at all, in addition to maybe having them fall out of the playoffs entirely. So there's more stuff to think about there. I just like the play-in tournament. I think it's fun, and as an NBA fan, I hate seeing people's like interest die off, of course. As a diehard fan, I'm watching games anyways, no matter what point of the season it is, even though my team is tanking pretty hard. I think it's fun. I think it's a good way to change up the game. I know some people, like I said, aren't going to like it, but let me know what your suggestions are for the play-in tournament. I think it's a good idea. And I think we're going to see that on, I believe it's the 17th, 18th, and 19th are the 3 days for the play-in tournament, maybe even the 20th. But in that 3-4 day span, we're going to see how good it is, how good the potential is, and whether this video is right or wrong. Maybe it happens and everyone hates it and it sucks because it's just like a blowout. That's very possible. But I really feel like we're going to get some classic games, especially if we have, like I mentioned, like a LeBron James versus Steph Curry. There's potential for like Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal versus Jason Tatum in that 7-8 game in the Eastern Conference. We're going to get to see the Hornets and the Pacers with stars on both sides like Sabonis, LeVert, LaMelo Ball, Terry Rozier, Gordon Hayward potentially. Actually, I'm not sure if he's going to be back from his injury in time, but either way, a lot of stars on either side, and it's going to be fun. So those are my thoughts on the play-in tournament. I thought I would make a video because it's topical, and I know it's coming up, and people are really focusing on it now, which I think is exciting. So let me know what you think about the play-in tournament in the comment section below. I will see you guys later. Everyone, say it back.